Hello, everybody. Good evening. I just want to have a bit of a chat about how I overcame thinking that I was gay. So in 1996, I don't think I can hear anything here. In 1996, I had some serious doubts about my sexuality, and I got to the point. I think I was about 29 years of age at the time, and I had just been in a relationship with a girl, and that relationship hadn't worked out, and so I decided that there must be something wrong with me and that I mustn't be a real man. And I think, what had come back to haunt me was some memories of when I was a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old child, having some homosexual, kind of semi-homosexual experiences. Then I was at, I suppose, an all boys school or whatever, and I certainly had some same-sex experiences. I'm not necessarily very proud of them, but it happened, and perhaps it happened because my father had died when I was 6 years of age, and my mom, I think, wasn't never a particularly touchy-feely type of person, and maybe just wasn't really there for me or any of us. I'm not sure at that time. So yeah, I found myself in some what I would now call compromising situations. I perhaps, I certainly did things at times that I wouldn't want my son to get involved in now. But I think I was desperate. I think I was desperate to connect, with other human beings. I was really quite shocked after the death of my dad, and I think I really struggled for somebody to just hang on to and hold on to, and I think that showed up in what I would describe as sort of maybe a bit of perversion. I know Sigmund Freud describes this sort of activity as part of sexual development, but I feel, yes, it was part of my sexual development, but I kind of wish that a lot of it wasn't. So I do believe it was slightly perverse. But anyway, fast forward, I had read a lot of Sigmund Freud when I was about 13 or 14 years of age, and I remember thinking at the time, because I had got confronted by my mother about some of my behaviors that somebody had reported to their mum, and their mum talked to my mum, and so I got confronted about my behavior, and I remember talking through this with an older friend of mine, and he recommended that I read some Sigmund Freud. He said Sigmund Freud was very good on this subject, so I did read quite a bit of Sigmund Freud, and thankfully Sigmund Freud got me off the hook, because he talked about latent homosexuality as being sort of part of the normal sexual development. So off the hook at 14, but then when my relationship, I was never particularly confident when it came to approaching girls in school, and yeah, definitely wasn't in the kind of first 15 in school rugby wise, and I wasn't some very physically confident person growing up. So when I did manage to get a girlfriend of my own at 25 or whatever, 27 years of age, 27 I think it was when I met Joanne, I found myself really kind of hanging on tight and quite devastated when that relationship, when I couldn't hang on to her really, when she ended up with somebody else. And so I started to doubt myself, and I started to doubt whether in actual fact I did fall into that, whether I did fall into the category of being gay. And so I decided that I didn't really want to be gay, and I started to think about ways that I could get out of that. One of the ways I thought about it was having a sex change. I didn't want to be up on a St. Patrick's Day parade with a whistle, or doing gay parades, and I didn't really want to be in a homosexual relationship. But I think it's important that I point out that I genuinely did think that I wasn't a normal heterosexual male. I did actually start to really believe that I was gay, and I think that's important, because I think that's why a lot of people think, why a lot of people do have, are in gay relationship, is because they genuinely believe that they are gay, that they believe that they're not normal. They believe that they're not actually heterosexual, that there's something wrong with them. Because that was certainly the case with me. So I also decided at one point, that I was going to kill myself. And so, yeah, in 1997, I was actually late 1996, early 1997. I was actually suicidal, and I 3 times I remember going out to kill myself. Once I went out with a bit of glass into a field, and I remember thinking, as I was about to cut my wrist, I sort of visualized that if I did cut my wrist, that I would actually, that the blood, I could sort of nearly see the blood leaving my body, and that I had this feeling like as if my spirit would just leave my body, that I'd see my body on the ground, but I'd still be there. And the other thing that I noticed was that I wasn't afraid of the dark. And normally I would be afraid in a big football pitch in the middle, with woods all around, and I would have been afraid of the dark, and I wasn't afraid as I stood there. And that struck me as unusual. Why should I not be afraid just because I'm going to die? And why was I afraid? So fear, I suddenly became conscious of the fact that fear seemed to be a player here, in, perhaps a lot of my life. So I decided to give myself another 24 hours and see if I could figure a way through this. Another time I went out, I was going to get a rope and hang myself, but on my way to get the rope, I had to pass the cinema, and I was going to a petrol station to buy a towing rope or something, and I had to pass the cinema, and Roddy Doyle's The Van was playing in the cinema, and I decided to go in and watch it. What did I got to lose? I was going to be dead soon, so I might as well go and watch a movie. And it turned out that movie was so funny that I laughed myself sort of into a good mood and came out, and I said, okay, I'll give myself another 24 hours, And there was one other time when I actually put an exhaust, or put a rubber bicycle tube onto a car exhaust pipe, but that didn't stay sticking in the back window of the car, and so I'm still here. I sort of thought that perhaps God was giving me another chance, or whatever. The universe was what I was thinking at the time. I wasn't a Christian then, like I am now. I think what's really important is that at that time, I remember I was watching something on television shortly after the time with the glass. I was sitting watching something on television, and basically it showed sets of twins, identical twins on a game show, and basically these twins were commenting about each other and whatever. But there was 2 twins anyway. One pair of twins came on, two males, and the first one came on and said, "Oh, I love my brother. He's a really cool guy. He likes fast women, fast cars, and he's just a real dude." And the second guy came on and he just went, "Oh, I really love my brother. He's amazing. Like it just whatever." And I was like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! These are identical twins, so they're genetically identical, which means that one is behaving in a male fashion and the other is behaving in a female sort of fashion." And so it just struck me again, like the hermaphrodite frogs, that if you put 2 male frogs into well, frogs are hermaphrodite apparently. So if you put two frogs into a confined area, that one will turn into a female in order to survive. And so I just realized that it seemed like as if human beings were capable of doing the same, that sort of for defensive purposes, that one will kind of become more male and one will display more female characteristics or feminine characteristics. And so what I decided there and then was that, so it was like a light went on in my brain, a switch or something, and I decided, I'm not actually gay. I'm just an insecure male, and And it was funny because it was like a gate opened in my brain, and suddenly I just no longer, yeah, I just lost all that kind of a huge level of fear and anxiety that I had been walking around with. And I really came into a very confident period in my life when I actually, yeah, just realized that I wasn't gay. And actually what I realized was that nobody is gay. So I don't actually believe that anybody's gay. I think a lot of people walk around thinking that they're gay, and they make a case for homosexuality because they believe that that there's something wrong with them, and they don't believe that they're normal. And so, I know this could turn into quite a controversial video, but I've been really wanting to get this out, perhaps to help other people who are in this situation, or in the situation that I went through. And I know a lot of people are suicidal, because they, and a lot of violence and domestic violence is because people feel that they're not a real man, and it's an absolute lie. You are a real man, or you are a real woman. You don't have to be a rugby player to be a real man. When you're born, the doctor tends to look at an infant and say it's a male or a female. They don't say there's a highly likelihood that this one could turn out to be a boy, or this one looks potentially like it might turn into a girl. So I really think that it's time that this whole bullshit got outed for what it is, and that young men and young women can actually start enjoying their life, rather than actually feeling that they have to behave like certain stereotypes in order to qualify for manhood or to qualify for womanhood. It's an absolute disaster. It nearly cost me my life. So this video is about basically trying to re-educate people properly, that there's no such thing as gay. And I don't care how many people walk around screaming at me and threaten me or whatever. Like, I genuinely believe that there's no such thing as gay based on my own personal experience of this. I'm not prepared to back down. Thank you.